we should not judge or condemn others. And he warned us, I believe it's over in Matthew, he said, be careful, because with the same judgment that you use, that same judgment will be applied to you. And the same measure will be applied to us that we measure others with. And he emphasized that we should have mercy, humility, and discernment. And he explicitly instructed his followers to not judge others. Matthew chapter 7, verses 1 and 2. You don't have to turn there particularly. You can if you want. Matthew chapter 7, verses 1 and 2. He said, do not judge so that you will not be judged. For with the judgment you make, you will be judged. And the measure you give will be the measure you get. Also, over in Luke chapter 6, verse 37, he warned against condemnation. He said, don't judge, and you will not be judged. Do not condemn, and you will not be condemned. Those things highlight that Jesus said whatever our actions are, there could be reciprocal. In other words, what we throw out may come back to us. Be careful. Be careful. Jesus emphasized the importance of looking at our own faults before we criticize others. He made that point with several comparisons in the Bible. He talked about the speck and the log, noticing that a small fault in someone else while ignoring our own big faults as we condemn other people. He talked about the gnat and the camel in Matthew 23:24, where Jesus criticized the Pharisees for their hypocrisy. He stated, you blind guide, you strain out a gnat but swallow a camel. He's talking about how the Pharisees focused on all the minor little details of the law while neglecting the more significant moral issues that were deep inside people. And it just pointed out the absurdity of their hypocrisy. They were supposed to be the church leaders, if you will. They were supposed to be the ones teaching people how to live, and yet they all were hypocrites because they would preach one thing and do another. You had to stick to the law. You had to dot every I, cross every T, and make sure every little jot and tittle was taken care of. But they would walk around in their fancy robes and their high hats and look down on people. That's not mercy. That's not grace. Jesus teaches humility and self-awareness. Jesus taught us that only God can fully know the heart and the intentions of other people. Look at John chapter number 8 with me. John chapter number 8, verse number 2. Now early in the morning, he came again into the temple, and all the people came to him, and he sat down and taught them. Then the scribes and Pharisees brought to him a woman caught in adultery. And when they had set her in the midst, they said to him, Teacher, this woman was caught in adultery in the very act. Now, Moses in the law commanded us that such should be stoned. But what do you say? This they said, testing him, that they might have something of which to accuse him. But Jesus stooped down and wrote on the ground with his finger as though he did not hear them. So when they continued asking him, he raised himself up and he said to them, He who is without sin among you, let him throw the first stone at her. And then again he stooped down and wrote on the ground. Then those who heard it, being convicted by their conscience, went out one by one, beginning with the oldest, even to the last. And Jesus was left alone, and the woman standing in the midst. When Jesus had raised himself up and saw no one but the woman, he said to her, Woman, where are those accusers of yours? Has no one condemned you? And she said, No one, Lord. And Jesus said to her, Neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more. Then Jesus spoke to them again, saying, I am the light of the world. He who follows me shall not walk in darkness, but have the light of life. 1 Samuel, verse 16, the second half of that verse says, For the Lord does not see as man sees, for man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart.
Almost since the beginning of time, human beings have had a brutally simple way of dealing with wrong. Rocks. Someone would point out the offender in the camp or the family, and everyone would come running. Picking up a cold, hard ballot of stone, they would violently cast their vote against wrong again and again and again until it was gone. It was their way. But one hot day in the Middle East, a man stepped in front of the rock throwers and changed things forever. A woman had been caught in the act. Not hearsay, not suspicion, not circumstantial evidence, but caught in the very act of adultery. Dragging her out, the men forced her to stand in front of a crowd as they pressed angrily in on her with rocks in their hands. Hot tears spilled down her cheeks in shame or maybe anger. Where was the man? Was she his heart's love or just the afternoon's activity? There's no way to know, and either way, he wasn't there. She was alone, and they were on her. They, the self-proclaimed upholders of moral righteousness, the super pious pillars of the community, armed with their bludgeoning hypocrisy and their crowd-pleasing indignation over wrong. Her stomach was knotted so tightly she could scarcely breathe. Her dignity was shredded, her spirit drenched with dread, but her hands were clenched in defiance. She'd sinned and been caught. And now she was dead-ended in a circle of judges with rocks in their hands. Have you ever noticed how good it feels to throw a rock really hard? Your hand feels the weight of the stone, and when you let it fly, there's a tremendous release. Is that what they felt that day? That each person's rock held the weight of the community's judgment? It had become a familiar scene. No, they would yell. Wrong, caught, punish. They would throw and throw, their fury fueled by each other as much as by the crime, until the one in the center was still. Problem is, rocks don't hit sin. Rocks hit people. And thousands of years later, they still do. Oh, we're too sophisticated nowadays to be flinging granite. But the words we throw in judgment and outrage are as hard and cold as any stone of old. And the release we feel when we let them fly can be just as exhilarating. 4 teenagers are killed on a Friday night, and we hurl our rocks. Well, they shouldn't have been drinking. No, they shouldn't have. But does that ease the pain and guilt of their parents? A young woman is raped while leaving a party, and someone says, "She was wearing a short skirt. She deserves exactly what she got." We drag her into our circle and throw our rocks. A businessman is jailed for a poor decision involving someone else's money, and we growl, "He can rot in there as far as I'm concerned." Never mind his wife and kids. We pile our rocks as high as we can. A woman confronts someone rudely about an indiscretion in her life, and later phones a friend to report that I told her exactly what I thought of that sin. Whop! Now that woman is in no danger of appearing soft on wrong, while the woman she hit will wear the bruise. As we throw, we convince ourselves if the rock lands in just the right spot, we can knock out something evil. You remember the story of David and Goliath? Thank you, Eric. Plant the rock squarely in the forehead of your foe, and your side wins. If our goal is to kill our enemy, this could work. But if our goal is to change a friend's heart, it definitely will not. We can sometimes knock sense into a person with a rock, but we can't knock out sin. If we actually could throw a rock and hit the evil of the world, we would still run out of rocks before it was all gone. For all the wrong that's been done to us, there simply are not enough rocks to make it okay. Would there ever be enough rocks for the Holocaust survivors? Would every quarry in the state of Oklahoma yield enough stones for a man that would blow up a building, killing 168 people whose only crime was showing up for work? If every passenger on the planes on 9/11 had a rock, they still would not have been able to stop the evil that day. Even in our world today, are there enough rocks to deal with all the evil we see? Sometimes there just aren't enough rocks. All the rock throwing in the world will not calm what aches and burns in our souls when we've been horribly wronged. We cannot set the bone of what is broken on the earth with a cast of jagged rocks. When that man stepped out of the crowd of rock throwers that day and scribbled in the sand, he reminded a group of angry people who wanted to beat the sin out of her that it just wasn't possible. And he wasn't going to let them try just so they could feel better. They could kill her, but that wouldn't solve the bigger problem. He came to solve the bigger problem, so we wouldn't have to try with our little pathetic rocks. What did Jesus scribble in the sand that day? The names of the men in the crowd who had also slept with her? That would have gotten their attention. Did he just trace patterns in the sand to allow tempers time to cool? Even group vengeance can be stopped if the momentum slows. Or did he write something completely different? Like, she is your daughter. That would have changed how they felt. Whatever he wrote, he drove it home with these words: if any one of you is without sin, let him cast the first stone at her. Silence. No one could say anything. His words disarmed all their accusations. He cut away the false high ground from under the feet of the self-righteous and forever leveled the playing field between the accused and the accusers. He gave those of us who have made the worst choices in our lives a place where it is safe to be broken without fear of being destroyed. He showed us no matter what, he would stand between us and our judges. And whenever we find ourselves part of the angry crowd of rock throwers with our own rocks raised, he confronts us with the choice to choose love over judgment. He didn't make the accusers drop their rocks. He never does. He just challenged them to consider their own hearts, saying in essence, deal with yourself before you deal with anyone else. He knows how prone we are to judge others. Most of us are used to lining up on the loveless side of judgment. We've been doing it for so long. We've grown up in the rock rodeo, becoming champion throwers at our favorite sin, and we can hit a target from 100 yards away. But then the day dawns when we come running with our rocks, and our hand freezes in the realization that we're throwing at our own sin, and we'll hit ourselves in the process. Or maybe one day, our door is thrown open, and to our horror, the circle of hate and rocks is closing in on us. These are drop your rocks moments. Love is giving us a chance to choose. Such moments come at different times for each of us, as when that sin we found so easy to hate now has a face and eyes, maybe our own. And what we found so easy to judge before now convicts us or breaks our hearts. When this happens, your son confesses in agony he's had an affair. Or your son confesses to you that he's an alcoholic. Or your daughter tearfully describes her abortion. You have a choice to leave mere theory behind and enter the gritty reality of relationships. As you listen, your teeth clench, your anger erupts, and your grip on the rock tightens. You want so badly to throw it. You want to say exactly what you think of that sin, and you want to try to beat it out of them. You've done it 100 times before, hitting the anonymous sinner. But now, it's painfully different. Love is giving us a chance to choose. Seeing our own loved ones in the circle is the most poignant challenge of all, for it invites us for the first time to step between the accusers and our beloved. If the adulterous woman had been someone's beloved, the people might have dropped their rocks for her. But she wasn't. She was an easy target for them to hit because she meant nothing to them and she was blatantly wrong, which made it easy for the people to hide behind her sin. If they could scorn her publicly, they wouldn't have to think about their own. So there she stood, possibly naked, a little defiant, but mostly ashamed. She fell to her knees and wrapped her arms tightly around herself as she braced for the first rock. She waited in agony, afraid to hope, as she watched the dirt becoming mud with her tears. They would never let her go. She was clearly caught. Lost in her own thoughts, she almost missed the soft little thud of a rock falling to the ground. Then another, and another, then shuffling, then stillness. His voice alone broke the silence. "Woman, where are your accusers?" Eyes downcast, she saw no feet around her, just rocks lying here and there. But still, she could not lift her head. Everyone else was gone. Only he was left. And in the most tender voice, he asked, "Has no one condemned you?" "No man, Lord," she said. "What will you do with me?" She was at the mercy of God, and he was about to speak. He could have said, "Now that they've gone, I want to tell you exactly what I think of your behavior." But he didn't. And for the record, he said, "Neither do I condemn you." For the first time since the ordeal began, she lifted her head. And he said one more thing. "Go and sin no more." The same love that called the others to drop their rocks was also giving her a chance to choose. Continue in the sickening slavery of wrong, or walk in the freedom of forgiveness. You see, grace doesn't just let us off, it sets us free. With one blow, it strikes the shackles, breaking it open that we may walk unfettered in freedom. Go and sin no more. No matter what happened that day, she would not be punished for her crime that day. He'd granted her an undeserved pardon wrapped in magnificent forgiveness, and she was free to go free. Could she really sin no more? It depends on what road she chose with her freedom. Would she feel the powerful strength that real love and forgiveness had just given her? Hold her head up high and never look back? Go and sin no more. In this story, God revealed the hidden power of love, giving us a divine show and tell we would never forget, and He changed everything. Our rocks will never change the world, only pockmark it with hate and fear. Only when we drop our rocks do we become more loving. As we clench and throw our rocks, we reveal our pettiness and our inability to change our own lives. And again, only when we drop our rocks and choose love do we become more loving. So the next time someone trembles in fear and tells you something you really didn't want to know, or you see your sin in someone else's life, or your loved one is braced to hear your cold words, you'll know what to do. Loosen your grip and listen for the flat thud of grace as you choose love over judgment. The only one who has a right to throw a rock is the one who has never done any wrong, ever. There's only been one, and only that one can pick up the rock. And He did. He became the rock and took care of our wrong for all time. And He still stands between us and our accusers. He lifts our heads and sets us on a path of freedom. When Jesus knelt in the sand that day, just maybe He wrote these words: "My rock is bigger than yours, and I'll handle this one. Rock of ages, cleft for me, let me hide myself in thee." Go.
I'm going to ask you to stand with me, if you would, please. It hit me as Rita was speaking, and there were several of us who have rocks that were supposed to drop them after she dropped hers up here. But it also hit me that in at least the New King James Version, it doesn't say they dropped their rocks. It says they went out one by one. And what that says to me is there were some in that crowd who that day, they didn't drop the rock and leave it. Just like those who come to church, they listen, they get under conviction for their sins, but they don't come to the altar and give it to Jesus. They grasp hold of it and they take it home with them. Ready for the next time, ready for the next conviction, ready for the next. Folks, listen, until you're ready to let go and leave it all with Jesus, you're going to carry a burden that is way too heavy for you to carry. Jesus not only did not stone her, He lifted a burden that day. It's also interesting to me that He didn't give her a name in the scriptures. A woman. Could be any woman, any man, any child, anyone. She represents humanity who gets caught in our sin, and we know it. She didn't deny it. We get caught in our sin, and we have two choices. We either leave it at the Savior's feet, or we pick it up and take it home and remain in sin. Now, the implication here is when Jesus said, "Go and sin no more," the implication is that she did just that. We don't know that, but I can tell you this. When I was 9 years old, I came to Jesus and I asked Him to forgive me of my sins, and He did. And I wish I could tell you that I left the altar of that little country church that day and I went out and I sinned no more. But I can't tell you that. But what I can tell you is every time I came back to the Savior's feet and said, Lord, forgive me, He said, yes, my child. Now go and sin no more. There's two words that we need to remember as we're trying to live for Jesus and minister for Christ in this world. They're called mercy and forgiveness. Gentleness and meekness. And when addressing others' faults, we need to do it with love and truth, focusing just on actions, not the intent of the heart, because only God knows the intent of the heart. And this morning, I'm asking you right now, as Brother Wayne plays, I'm asking you to let go of the rocks. Whatever you're hanging on to, whatever you think you're waiting for, whatever you think will be better tomorrow, if you just make it through today, just bring it to the altar and drop it and leave it here. This altar is open. Anyone at all, would you like to come this morning? Come and leave it here. God bless our heart. Anyone else at all? Would you like to come? Today is the day. Don't wait. Today is the day. I did a funeral yesterday of a fellow who was 74 years old. And when I was 30 years ago, 74 was old people. That's just 7 years older than I am now. He was fine one day, living life to its fullest. That evening had a massive stroke and died, period. Folks, we have no promise of tomorrow. And that rock that you may be holding, that rock of judgment or condemnation, whatever it is, or that rock may be of sin, that burden that you're carrying and you just can't let go of. Don't wait, because we do not know when our number is up. Oh, preacher, now you're just trying to scare us. No, I'm telling you the truth. We have no promise of tomorrow. And why wait? What are we waiting for? To give it all to Jesus and let Him make our lives better, glorious, blessed, full of joy, unspeakable. What are we waiting for to let it go? Anyone else at all, would you like to come? Listen, this altar is open. You don't have to be a member here. You don't even have to attend here regularly. If you're visiting today, this altar is open. I ain't got no rocks to throw, man. It ain't mine to judge. But we're standing in the presence of the one who knelt down and wrote in the sand. There's a reason it's not mentioned what he wrote. What he wrote wasn't important. It was the fact that he didn't pass judgment. He forgave, He loved, and He cared, and He sent that precious person on their way. Anyone else at all, do you need to come? This altar is open. And listen, for those, if you don't need to come, you're fine, you're good with your relationship with the Lord, everything is okay, then you pray for those who do come. Because today they need your support. They need your lifting them up in prayer, taking them before the Father, because tomorrow it could be you, and maybe they'll be strong for you. And when you have a need, when you're trying to leave a burden at the altar, they can pray for you. Anyone else at all, do you need to come? I want to thank you all for being here today, and thank you, Rita, for that powerful message. You did a good job. She was so nervous about it. She wanted to glorify the Lord, and I believe you did. Listen, I love you all so much. I can't even begin to tell you how much I love and care about you. And my job is not to condemn. My job is not to correct or change. My job is to give you hope in the name of Jesus, because he is the one who can make a difference for you. May God bless your day. May God grant you peace for the journey, joy. May God protect you, give you your heart's desire. And we'll look forward to seeing you the next time we come together to worship. Brother Wayne Adams, would you dismiss us in a word of prayer, please?